Nation on this Monday, Sirius XM 39. We've got a little under an hour left to go in our weekly live get-together just after 9 o'clock here on the East Coast, after 6 o'clock on the West Coast, where my next guest joins me checking in live. Had a great weekend hanging out with him and his band Rat, and he had quite the eventful weekend, especially just the day before he saw me in Illinois. It is the Bobby Blotzer of Rat. How are you, my brother?
Well, I don't have much of a voice left here after screaming my lungs out the plane. No, I'm just kidding. telling this story about friggin', I don't know, 1,000 times now I can barely talk. But
well, you know, first, yeah, of course. I mean, we had a great time, and of course, you know, we thankfully everybody can kind of somewhat laugh about it now. But I mean, knowing what you guys went through, I mean, for people who have not heard the story, I was waiting for you guys to get to Illinois and heard the story with a phone call that you had an issue on the plane coming over. But take us through it, if you will, exactly what happened from your perspective.
Well, you know, gosh, it ain't over for me because I'm still thinking about this shit. And, you know, I've been on probably, I don't know, 2 million miles worth of flying, I should say. And, you know, that's a bumpy ride, nothing kooky like trays rising to the ceiling, nothing like that. But this thing was really, really scary, and I'll tell you why. So I'm sitting in the Learjet. We have this Learjet with our friend Chuck Brennan, you know, and he's been a friend of ours for 10 years, and he owns about 3 jets. So we're out on his jet. And we're, you know, down for a week out. We started the tour on his jet, and we ended the tour this week on his jet. But we're sitting there. I'm reading, sitting in the seat facing the galley and the cabin, the front of the plane, right? And they have this, like, you know, stewardess girl that works on there that brings everybody drinks and sandwiches and that kind of thing. And, you know, I'm usually, like, reading, and so they got this electronic door. You push a button, or she does, or whatever. It opens up. She comes in and out of it. You know, so I'm always kind of looking at her. She's walking by. Don't ask why. I just do. But, you know, the door opens, and she's not walking out. I'm looking at her, and she's bopping around in the galley, which is like the kitchen area. Nobody knows where the galley is. And I was trying to ascertain what she was doing in this galley, you know, in seconds of what she's doing it, you know. And I'm looking at her, because she's like popping at the top, to the bottom, to the side, to the left, you know. And all of a sudden I look down towards the floor and see like a plume of smoke, you know. And immediately I'm just like, okay, I don't like the looks of this. And about the same time, my mind, and excuse my voice, I really have been talking so much for the last few days since this. It's been crazy.
No worries, go ahead.
I mean, it's everywhere, you know. But I look at the pilot, you know, and on the left side of the plane, the head pilot. And he just jumps out of his seat, unbuckles his belt. I see his face. And I'm the first person seeing this. I mean, I have a clear shot right there from the right seat that I'm looking at, okay? In front of me is a seat facing me with my manager. Chuck is in the seat to the left of me. Piercy's in the seat facing Chuck on the left side. And the other guys, Warren and the guys in Docket are back there yakking. So they don't know what's going on. And I see the look in this pilot's face, absolute fear. The guy looks very scared, which to me is a clear indicator of, holy shit, well, what, you know, I mean, it's not a good signal.
Right, the guy that's supposed to be in control and keeping everybody calm and being able to deal with everything looks scared. That's scary, yeah.
I mean, I'm reading into it very clear. I mean, I immediately knew that this is not good, you know. And he jumps out and he goes in the galley. He's looking around and trying to troubleshoot what's going on, you know, and to no avail. So my manager seeing me, like, kind of tripping out and seeing this happening, and he goes, what's up? You know, give me that face, like, what's going on? I just point and go, turn around and look at this. And while he turns around and looks backwards into the front, their pilots are putting their oxygen masks on. And then he turns to me and he's like, holy...
You can curse here.
Well, he's like, holy fuck, what? And I'm like, dude, I go, well, this is crazy. Meanwhile, everybody's in the back, you know, just by now we're starting to smell this burning wire. And I'm like going, okay, now this burning wire is no good at home, let alone on a friggin' airplane, 10,000 feet up in the sky,
Right.
And we were only at 15 minutes in this flight. So, and the weird thing is while I was reading, I could hear other conversations going on, and next to me I heard Chuck and Steven talking about, they mentioned Alita in the flight. I kind of caught my ear. I put my book down. I said, "What, is Alita going to fly with us tomorrow?" So they're like, "Oh no, Alita won't fly. She's freaked out about flying on planes, small planes." Well, it's not a small plane. A pretty big Learjet, 14 people. And I was like, "Oh really? She love this. I mean, it's so plush. I mean, it's a $10 million jet, So with that being said, literally a minute and a half later is when all of this started to take place. It was total ironic, So then the girl comes out and she's like, okay, we're going to make an emergency landing. Well, she couldn't get that across. I heard it perfectly clear, as did Chuck, Steven, and Rob while we're in the front four seats. So then I had to, give the dad whistle to these guys, show up and listen to this. And they all stopped talking, and she said it again. Everybody starts looking at each other with that look like, and I think everybody starts smelling the smell at that point. And then, we're going to make this emergency landing. And on the wall of the cabin, there's a big flat screen that shows you, like in a regular flight, where you see the GPS, you're going point A to point B.
Right.
How high you are, the time, and, how fast you're going, ground speed, etc. And he starts making this turn, and we're looking at the screen. I'm looking in the cabin at him, and then she closed the door. Now I'm really starting to panic, not panic, but get very concerned. And
what are Bobby? What are the pilots doing at this point? Now they got their oxygen masks on. What are they doing? Are they scrambling? Or are they in the cockpit?
Well, at first she waited a few, I don't know, I want to say minutes, but it was more like maybe a minute before she closed the door, because I was just, had my eye beaded on the front of the plane to see what they were doing, how they were handling things. The look on this guy's face, man, I'm telling you, I'll never forget it, because the last person you want tripping out, it's not Don Dokken, it's friggin' the pilot,
Right, of course. Yeah, I'm sure Don had his own issues at that point. I mean, I can't imagine how everybody was handling this, but go ahead.
It took that to get him and Juan Crucian to shut up for 5 minutes,
Right.
But, I mean that jokingly, they're great guys. But, they closed the door. Now everybody's starting to chatter in the cabin. So I'm fixated on the screen now to see where they're going to go. Because you can see the plane, you can feel the plane turning, and I'm watching it with all the neighboring cities, Dubuque, Iowa, Rockford, Illinois, blah, 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 So it looked like we were heading over to Dubuque, but he ended up making a 360 and going back to Moline, Illinois, where we had just played the night before, which was a great gig and a great town. But, then he starts descending, not quick enough for me. I felt like, put this thing down, dive at the ground, let's get out of here. And there's a lot of cornfields down below me. My manager well, fucking put this thing in the cornfield. I mean, because you don't know if the plane is burning in the guts of the plane. I mean, God only knows, you know what I mean? You don't think about it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're smelling smoke and seeing, and smelling smoke and something's on fire in the plane and you see that sort of panic. Yeah, I mean, you don't know if it's the engines, the engines go, you're fucked beyond belief. So it's like, dude, I'm telling you, man, I flew with you guys the next day. I was scared shitless the next day getting on the plane with all you guys on a private plane, and I was scared, and I wasn't on this flight. I missed it by a day. I can't even imagine what you're thinking.
Well, I'm never, ever, ever scared about flying, right? It never happened. So, but, like I'm telling you again, repeating myself, seeing the pilot freaking out was just a little bit too much. So then we, get down, we're starting to, get closer. I'm looking at the plane and seeing on the screen, and we're getting closer to, Moline. And I didn't realize how quickly we're descending till I got off the plane, because once I hit the ground, which I wanted to get down and lick, I was like so happy to be on that ground. I could feel my equilibrium just like kind of weirding out, because he did descend pretty rapidly. So we get, we pulled in, and we get off the plane. There's like 3 giant fire trucks everywhere, you know, full of like, you know, emergency mode. And, you know, the bottom line is they had to get, you know, there wasn't, you know, at that point, you know, they had shut down the generator, you know, the internal generators, and, you know, there was no more smoke to visually see, but nobody still knew what was going on. We clearly knew that we weren't going on this plane, you know, back to where we were heading outside of Chicago for that show. And, you know, we were like, okay, tour managers, what are we doing? Which at that point, you know, we had 3 SUVs delivered to the airport. Down there, made the 3-hour journey to the town. And of course, by then, well, let's just say, in that journey, about an hour in, some, you know, the thing has gotten out. You know, Chuck Brennan had texted me and said, "You're not going to believe this. This thing has hit AP, the Wire, you know, Associated Press, not Wire." And then they're all following this, and it's just, I couldn't believe how widespread, worldwide, you know, especially in the States, it was everywhere. And the coverage was just insane. You know, we saw it the next day on the news, NBC, TV, on the television, you know, CNN, etc. So we didn't have that plane. We, you know, the next morning had a new plane, yesterday, another plane to finish the trip in, and we came back on it last night and got in at 2:30 this morning back to LA. That's a 4.5 hour.
Hey, Bob, did the pilot, when you got on the ground, what did the pilot or the airlines, or did you ask him, I mean, did they get to the bottom of what the hell this was and what was burning and how scary it was, how dangerous it was?
Yeah, dude, a good point, because I was going to bring this up, because, you know, we're sitting in this lounge area of this, you know, these private airfields that these Lear jets go in and out. You got like a, you know, a building you go in for this, where you park, and then you have a waiting area with couches, very nice. And so we're all in there, and everybody's, of course, talking, tripping out, you know. And there was a younger pilot, second, you know, co-pilot, and I was looking at him, and I said, "So, I want to ask you something, bro. Have you ever, this ever happened with you?" And he had this, like, clenched smile going on, and his cheeks were very flushed and red. And he was like, "No," you know, he's like, "No," and like laughing at the same time, but a nervous laugh, you know. And I could sense that. So I was like, "Oh, man, this really, you don't know what this could have been." I mean, on the downside, this could have been, I don't even like to reference what other, you know, people have gone down situations where it's turned bad.
Yeah.
But, you know, you never know. It could, thank you, God, you know. And it was, it turned out to be, you know, we walked out. You know what I mean? Believe me, when you smell smoke up there and seeing smoke and seeing just all those things add up to, like, danger, you know? I mean,
of course, man. I'm telling you, it's beyond. As I said, I mean, I'm sitting in Wakanda, and I had talked to your manager and a couple of the guys in the band, and I'm like sitting there, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll be in around 1 o'clock, and we'll get lunch or whatever." And I'm sitting in the lobby. I was bored in my room, so I come down to the lobby. I'm figuring now they're going to walk through the door any minute. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and then all of a sudden, Rob, your manager, calls me up. He's like, "Did you hear what happened?" I'm like, "No," but whatever it is, obviously everybody's okay. I just thought, oh, a tire blew out on the car, or, you know, somebody disappeared or what. And then he tells me this, and my jaw's on the floor. I'm like, you got to be shitting me.
Well, you know, as you can tell with my super hoarse voice, I've had so many friends, and not only that, but, you know, just within the touring bands, you know, Doc and Sebastian Lita, who weren't on the plane, but, you know, I've told this story, I don't know, feels like 500 times, you know. But besides that, it's really kind of fucking with my head, too, because it hasn't, like, completely disappeared out of my brain. Last night on the flight, and you remember, Eddie, when we were sitting on the flight yesterday, remember that thing kept making that...
Yeah, there was a beeper. It sounded like a smoke alarm, actually, that every, like, 10 minutes, this thing went boop, boop, on the plane we were on. And I remember you kept saying, every time it went off, you're like, "I don't want to hear no shit going off," and I don't blame you. I mean, I don't know what that was, but there was no need for that to be happening, especially after what you guys went through.
Yeah, and I've never been weird to fly. Like I said, landing in LA last night, or this morning, at 2:30 in the morning, we went through the typical LA Marine layer horse shit, for like, it was outside the windows, complete fog, fog. You couldn't see nothing. It seemed to last forever. And I'll never forget this because I'm sitting in the back now, the plane, two seats in the back, and John Levin, top player Doc, and Sean McNabb, bass player, are sitting facing me at this table, and Warren DeMartini and Juan Tricia are facing them. And as we land, doing the planning thing, the two guys that faced me, we kept looking at each other like going, it just doesn't, a thing that you get in your eye, you look at each other like going, I know what you're thinking because I am so thinking it too. Finally, the lights of the city broke through. But it seemed to take forever,
And I was talking. I know that John Levin, Dawkins guitarist, great guy, and I know that we talked about it a lot afterwards at the gigs when I saw you guys. And he was really. Listen, everybody, nobody's going to tell you they're not completely freaked, but he had a real hard time with it, and he told me that it was going to be a really long time before he could ever get it out of his mind. But as you know, doing what you do, doing what we do, there's a lot of flying around. You got to get over it. And I was talking to John about it after it had happened, and he said to me, he goes, they're getting another plane. He goes, you're on that plane tomorrow? And I said, yeah. And I said to John, John says to me, he goes, you're going to get on it? I was like, John, you can't, as much as, and I can't vouch for what you guys went through because I wasn't a part of it, and I don't know how I would have handled it. I can't even comprehend how I would have handled it. But at the same token, I said to John, I go, I still, even if I didn't take the plane, I still ultimately have to fly home from here on a commercial plane. I've got 5 flights lined up over the next 2 months. You've got to, at some point, unless you're going to stay in your house the rest of your life, you've got to get past it.
Well, I'm past it. I'm not over. That'll never, I think the most, thing that'll stick in my brain was the look on the pilot's face.
Yeah.
That, to me, that was like, I just never forget. I'll never forget the look on his face. Just, and I don't want to use the word panic, but he looked super tripped out. I was like, so we made it. It's all good. We had a great trip. A great end of the week tour here with all those bands and Chuck and our friends and our great crew. I thank everybody. We had such a fun. Of course, all the fans that came out. All the shows did great. But,
Yeah, no, I said that on the air. I talked a lot about the shows I was with you at this on Sunday and Saturday in Wakanda and Kalamazoo. And, I didn't want it to get lost in the equation that, these were great shows. And, you guys in particular, firing on all cylinders, sounding amazing. And I thought, production-wise, I think for Rat, this is really the best it's been in a long time. But, obviously this was a near tragic thing that you certainly don't... you wish didn't overshadow the whole thing, but it's important that it doesn't get lost. And real quick, I should tell people about what I mentioned about Levin. And when we talked about it, and he's like, you're going to get on? He goes, I'm going to get on. So John actually did end up getting on and taking that next flight. And he sat right next to me on the side seat. And I told him, I said, don't worry, I'll cuddle you if there's problems. So we'll cuddle up over here. But
you're the teddy bear, from there, so...
But again, thank God, Bobby. Thank God that we can have at least, as crazy as it was, and I can't imagine being in all your shoes and what you're thinking, but thank God that everybody is safe, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah, thanks. And what, Ed, always good to hang out with you out there, man. I love it when you come out. I love just seeing you and the guys, and, we're here. It's all good. It's all, over. I do think about the poor souls that have gone down and flight. It made me think of, you've got a lot of time to think about this kind of stuff because it could have been something more nutty and, life-threatening or whatever. So, gosh, can you imagine what certain people have gone through? Not just, musicians or whatever, any plane flight that somebody had to lose their life in, and they had the time to, consider that they had 2 minutes to hit, that to me is just, when I thought about that kind of stuff, occasionally in my life of flying, I just push it out of my head, but that made me think more, and God rest anybody's soul that has had to go through that, because it's definitely scary.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, man, before I let you go, as I said, the shows were great, and likewise, great hanging with you, and thanks for having me. It was a blast. Give everybody that's listening real quick the next, what's next on the agenda for Rat.
Well, we have one show up next week here in the States. Then we go, that's down in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and which is actually in a couple days. I leave again on a plane Wednesday to head down there. We play Thursday, come back, and we got some time off, and I got to deal with my neck bummer that I got going on with these friggin' bone spur things, but then we got to go down with Aerosmith into South America, and everybody's writing stuff here in our band for this new record. We're talking about extending this tour and doing more shows. So it's all kind of on the board right now. If we're going to keep going or get into studio mode. But definitely with the success of this summer, which, was a shorter one because we came in late, and getting our thing together with it. We did, I don't know, about 25, 30 shows. But, next summer is going to find us out there on a big, long tour worldwide, and we're very happy. It's been, the band's playing awesome.
Yeah, I can attest to that firsthand, for sure.
We're getting along good, really good, and it's fun, man. I'm bummed that it's over. I like to keep playing and working, and but I also like what I'm doing here 15 minutes ago, floating in my pool with my puppy, laying on my stomach on the ground.
Well, listen, man, after what you've been through and 4 in a row that you're coming off of, you definitely deserve to do that. And I'm going to be on, speaking of long flights, getting on planes, I'm going to be at the shows in Brazil, the one that you're on, and I'm actually hosting that. So my TV show's on in Sao Paulo, and I've never been in Brazil, and I'm really excited to go there for the first time. So we'll be seeing each other again soon, and taking much longer flights than what we just did to get to South America. But that should be awesome. And I don't think Chuck Brennan, as generous as he is with offering everybody rides on his plane, I don't think he's offering flights to South America. So I think we're going commercial.
Well, Chuck's a smart cookie. He's got that Dollar Loan Center store, which he's got like 400 stores, and I can just see him doing a promotion to get people into the store onto the plane. So you guys go to Dollar Loan Center. You might be on the flight with us the next trip.
Exactly.
So it's not in my cards to go down the place, but you fly with me, you're safe. You're coming home.
There you go. And that's what everybody said. You're going to go on that thing. You're going to go on the thing the next day. I was like, listen, the near miss already happened. What are the odds of 2 days in a row there being an incident? And thankfully, the day I was on with you, there wasn't. But I'm glad everybody's safe. I'm glad you guys are home, and get some rest, man. And we had some fun, and it was good seeing you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Well, one last thing I'll say is there's been such a great, huge amount of people reaching out, and giving their blessing and thanks that everything's cool. That's really, really cool of everybody. We greatly appreciate you all the time. So thanks for keeping us in your thoughts, man. And anybody for that matter. But, we love you, and cheers, rat and roll. We'll see you soon.
Cool. I'm going to play something from the last studio album, the opening track, Eat Me Up Alive, a little of the most recent Rat and Roll here on Eddie Trunk Live, Trunk Nation. Thanks, bro. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Love you guys. Cheers.
See you, man.